My name is Jordyn Humphreys, and I'm here today to argue whether or not the legal drinking age should be lowered to 18. And I'm going to give you reasons as to why it is a bad idea to lower the age and why it should remain at 21. The law was put into place to protect teenagers from themselves because they can cause cognitive and physical damage to themselves. The law was first placed into effect in 1984. Congress passed the law, and then they gave the entire United States until October 1986 to ratify the law in all states. And if they didn't do it by then the states would lose 10% of their federal highway funds. They changed the reason why it was specifically to 21 is because that's when your brain is done developing. Whenever your brain, like your second decade of life is whenever your brain is like in its most important stages of forming memories and learning. And by drinking alcohol at such a young age, it could hinder your cognitive abilities. It can mess with your hippocampus, which it forms your memories. It should remain at 21 because teenagers are not mature enough to drink alcohol responsibly and then make responsible decisions. Like I said earlier, it should remain in effect because it protects it protects teenagers from damaging themselves physically and cognitively. According to Christopher Hammond, he is a psychologist. Underage drinking is especially concerning given the dramatic neurobiological, psychosocial, and cognitive changes that occur during the second decade of life. Premature consumption can lead to multiple different factors. Like it can mess up, like I said earlier, like it can mess up your memory. It can also risk like your health for the rest of your life. Like you can develop alcoholism, liver disease, you can even get panic disorders. And with alcohol actually being a depressant, it can cause depression. Drinking before your brain is fully developed, it risks the development. It can freeze where you're at, age-wise. If you start drinking at 16, then your brain's going to freeze at 16, and it's going to take a few years for your brain to rebuild those cells that were damaged by the alcohol. It affects memory. Like I said earlier, the hippocampus is like the formation, it forms your memories. And in a recent study, people that drank before 21, their hippocampuses were significantly smaller than the ones of those who were non-drinkers. It impairs judgment in a number of ways, and it impairs motor ability. Teenagers, they're just too immature to handle the responsibilities that come whenever you consume alcohol. In your second decade of life, that's whenever like I have said, that's whenever your brain is like changing, and it causes mood swings and a bunch of irrational thinking. And going along with that, teenagers have this mindset that they're invincible. They think that nothing can take them down. They're like 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And that goes along with like the irrational thinking, irresponsibility. Teenagers, most of the time, they are not responsible enough to drink it because they think it would be a good idea to go drink and then go drive right afterwards, like endangering their lives, but lives of other people as well. Edgar Snyder, he's a law consultant for DUIs. He said an average of 9 teens are killed in car accidents each day, And then he goes on to say a quarter of those are DUI related. So that is a lot, that if 9 teenagers every day are dying in car accidents, and a quarter of those teenagers are dying because they were driving under the influence, whether it was drugs or alcohol, teenagers aren't responsible enough to fully grasp the importance and the responsibility that it needs for to drink. Your teenage years, like, that's whenever you're learning like your biggest life lessons. And some people, they want to use the argument, well, they drink and drive and they get into a wreck, then they learn their lesson. But what about the ones that hit somebody and kill them, and then they have to live with that for the rest of their lives, that they took somebody else's life because they made a poor decision, and they're also going to be making that, they're also going to be thinking about that while they're probably sitting in a jail cell. There's too many risks that go along with underage drinking that like stand for good points why the drinking age should remain at 21. There are different loopholes. People, like most teenagers that have friends that are over the age of 21, and then for the friends that don't buy them alcohol that are over the age of 21, they do have like that cool aunt or uncle or even the parents that supply them with the alcohol. A major loophole, which is extremely illegal, are fake IDs. And in most states, if you're caught with a fake ID, that is a felony, like right off the bat, and that's something that will follow you for the rest of your life, and it prohibits you from voting and contributing to stuff that is really important to the functionality of our country. Some ways that we can prevent the underage drinking is police taking it seriously. Like, so many times I've heard where my friends have gotten busted at parties for underage drinking whenever they're 17 or 18 years old, and the police don't charge them, which the maximum charge for underage drinking is $1,000. Instead of charging them, they just tell them, hey, call your parents and tell them to come pick you up. And I think that if more police officers charged them with underage drinking, then it would really implement the lesson that it's wrong and you can, like, it's dangerous. Parents, like, it starts at home. Like, your parents, you need to put your foot down. Whenever your teenager asks you for alcohol, you need to say no. Like, you need to tell them, no, it's a bad idea, and I'm not doing it because I'm trying to be the strict parent. I'm trying to protect you from yourself, and I'm trying to protect others from what may happen if you are under the influence. No, and going back to what I said about the police and the parents, no lesson is learned if parents just, like, if the police just tell the teenagers to call their parents, no lesson's going to be learned, because the parents are like, oh yeah, you're going to get yelled at, but you're going to go do it again. Since the law has been in effect since the law was placed in effect across all 50 states in 1986, Congress didn't do this to, like, poke at the teenagers and everything. They did it simply for their protection and the protection of others, because your brain is not fully developed, and your second decade of life is the most important times for your cognitive building. Teenagers are just immature for it. Like, it's too immature. We make poor decisions. We're irrational thinkers, and we think off of we let our emotions control our actions more times than not. The legal drinking age should definitely not be lowered to 18, and it should stay at 21, because, like I've said throughout the speech, it protects everyone. It's not a jab at teenagers. It's just to protect them. Thank you.